Welcome back. Let's take you back to our top story now. Mark Kingan is the acting SARS commissioner. President Cyril Ramaphosa has suspended Tom Moyane with immediate effect. The president says his decision was sparked by public interest to restore SARS credibility. Let's get more analysis on the story now. eNCA's Xoli Mngambi joins us live from our newsroom cam. Xoli, we just went through it with our colleague Annika Larson a short while ago, but what a scathing letter to effectively be receiving from your boss. The president telling Tom Moyane in this letter that public finances have been compromised under your leadership.
Indeed, Michelle, I think the president of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa, couldn't be any more clearer to Tom Moyane about why he feels that perhaps it would have been a good decision for him, perhaps, because how I read this letter, Michelle, is that the president, in a way, is almost saying to Tom Moyane, perhaps you should have resigned, but given that I guess you won't give us that, the fair thing to do, or I guess the next logical thing to do, is to place you on suspension. And of course, Michelle, this stems from the many crises that we have seen at SARS during the tenure of Tom Moyane as a commissioner there. You know that last week the Revenue Service received the resignation letter, Michelle, of Jonas Makwakwa, who was the deputy SARS commissioner there. And of course, the feeling all round was that Mr. Makwakwa had been protected by Tom Moyane for the longest time, up until I guess he simply could not do that anymore, given the kind of scandal that Jonas Makwakwa was involved in. Remember that Jonas Makwakwa had received payments in his private bank account that could not be explained, and they were picked up by the Financial Intelligence Center. And whilst that was happening, Michelle, then it also emerged that during the contract that was given by SARS to a certain debt collecting company, Mr. Makwakwa failed to recuse himself from the adjudication board, which would have, of course, seen the tender being awarded. And as a result, when Tom Moyane says that he wanted to question him on this, that's when Makwakwa tendered his resignation. And very interesting to hear, Michelle, Tom Moyane last week during that press conference when he announced Makwakwa's resignation, that he felt that perhaps with hindsight, things could have been done differently. And I asked him specifically, Michelle, about whether or not he perhaps felt the same way in as far as the so-called rogue SARS unit at SARS, or should we say the alleged existence of that. And all Tom Moyane would say was that, well, let's allow the processes that are unfolding right now. I can't make any commitments, or I can't make any statements in relation to that for the moment, but let's allow these processes that are ongoing to see whether or not I will be proven wrong. So very interesting tone recently, Michelle, or should we say lately, by the SARS Commissioner Tom Moyane in respect of the many accusations against him in allegedly aiding and abetting state capture.
Well, Xoli, that's just the thing. It'll be interesting to see how Tom Moyane defends all of these various allegations of corrupt connections that have been leveled against him. He's been on eNCA on this channel so many times over the past few years, refuting any claims of his links to any corrupt activities. And yet, if you read through some of the criticism in today's coverage around the Tom Moyane issue, 42 months, that was his, the Daily Maverick calling it his reign of terror at SARS. He saw the hemorrhaging of skilled staff, the relentless persecution of some senior executives, including Pravin Gordhan. And of course, this was once a formidable, a world-renowned revenue service around the world. And it's now been reduced to what some are calling a hollow shell.
Indeed, Michelle, remember that I think, as the president points out in that letter, that tax morality is dependent on South Africans trusting the government that they are indeed paying their taxes to. And so if that tax morality starts waning, if people start feeling that paying the tax is actually not helping, if anything, it is aiding and abetting the corruption, the widespread corruption that the country has seen allegedly as a result of state capture, well, one can't help but, of course, put it at the doorstep of Tom Moyane to say this institution has deteriorated to the levels it has under your leadership. It took many years, Michelle, for that particular institution to gain the trust of South Africans. And the man who did that, Michelle, is none other than Pravin Gordhan. And so to see that institution having been part of the scandals that have come allegedly as a result of state capture, it really has dented, I think, the trust of South Africans in that institution, and perhaps people feeling that it's not such a good thing anymore to pay one's taxes. And I remember at one point, Michelle, I think from a personal point of view now, remember that we ourselves, we are taxpayers. I was going there and just interacting with some of the people at SARS. The very person who was helping me was very clear that, you're one of the few people that perhaps understands when we're talking about how you've got penalties to pay, but other people simply come to your desk and smack the papers in front of you and say, there's your money, go and continue with the corruption. That is the kind of feeling that South Africans have started to have in relation or with the advent of the so-called state capture allegations, Michelle. And so Tom Moyane, if indeed he is among those who are going to be hauled before that state capture inquiry led by the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, it'll be very interesting to hear just how he answers on some of the issues that have come to play at SARS. Who can forget, Michelle, Flock Symington, who was being held against his will, to quote him, when he was being prevented from leaving a room there because a protector of Tom Moyane was preventing him from doing that, and he was alleging that he had gotten instructions from Tom Moyane himself in order to prevent him from leaving that room. All of this, Michelle, relating to the very allegations of state capture. So Tom Moyane, there's a lot that he's got to answer for. But I wonder, Michelle, whether Tom Moyane is going to fight on. Perhaps we might learn a little later about why he is fighting. What are his reasons? Perhaps because I guess as a South African, he is entitled, of course, to his rights being protected. And so if he's going to lose his job and he wants to defend himself, it's going to be interesting to hear what his defense is going to be, given the allegations that are stacked up against him.
All right, well, thanks very much for that. eNCA's senior political reporter, Xoli Mngambi, joining us on our top story now. President Cyril Ramaphosa having suspended Tom Moyane, the SARS boss, with immediate effect. That letter to him coming in late last night. We'll have more on that story throughout the day right here on the channel.